Welcome to the Nebraska Department of Education's Making It Stick Professional Development webinar series. I'm Dr. Michael Quinn, and I'll be your host for Module 11, Inquiry Research Writing. Have you ever had a boss toss a problem in your lap and ask you to solve it? Were you able to solve the problem? How did you solve the problem? Did you walk away with some new skills and tools? What if your boss had handed you the same problem but asked you to carry through their solution? The Inquiry Research Writing webinar will take 25 minutes. Throughout this module, we built in some learner engagement activities to ensure your comprehension. When you see the pencil icon, you'll be asked to pause, reflect, engage, and write in your viewing guide. Feel free to stop, start, and rewind as needed. After you complete the module, we'll ask you a few quick questions to see if we've helped you meet the lesson's objectives. Let's get started. Here's our webinar's umbrella question. How can students use inquiry and research to answer questions, solve problems, and create new understanding? Because we want students to accept new responsibilities and solve problems autonomously. First, we'll reflect on your own process for learning through inquiry. Second, we'll explore the elements of inquiry-based learning and the writing process. Next, we will learn how to design lessons which promote student inquiry. Finally, we will draft a lesson utilizing the inquiry research writing process. After this webinar, you'll be able to apply the inquiry research writing process to your content area as well as your current units. Either by yourself or in a group, let's take some time to reflect on your investigative strategies and processes. What strategies or processes do you use when you want to learn more about a topic? In your academic life? In your personal life? How do you structure your process? Are you linear, chronological? Does level of importance matter? How do your academic and personal processes differ? Please pause the video for a moment and think back to your experience in school and the last big research paper you wrote. How about the last time you bought a car? Or switch to a new cell phone plan? If you're able, share with your colleagues. Press play when you're ready to resume. Our goal as teachers is to provide students with the tools they need to become literate contributors to society. There can be a disconnect between the research students do while in school and the research they will do as adults. The inquiry research writing process strategy is an effective way for students to learn how to properly and thoroughly research a topic. Before we address any specific inquiry strategies, we need our own common vocabulary for the Inquiry Research Writing webinar. Take a look at these three words: inquiry, research, synthesis. Let's define our three terms. If you're viewing as a staff or PLC, feel free to pause the video to create common or shared definitions with your colleagues. We will delve deeper into each one of these topics as we explore the inquiry research writing strategies. Press play when you're ready to resume. Using the inquiry research writing process is a way for students to become self-motivated learners because they are responsible for finding the appropriate resources, organizing the information in a logical format, evaluating the information, synthesizing the information into a coherent format, and forming conclusions. All of these steps are accomplished with teacher support and teacher modeling. So during the inquiry research writing process, the student maintains their level of responsibility. There are many benefits of the inquiry research writing process. Some of the main benefits are an increase in motivation, more self-direction in students, and the development of critical thinking and workplace skills. The structures and processes of the inquiry research writing process also lead to a deeper understanding of the topic, which builds retention. So now that we've explained what the inquiry research writing process is and why it's beneficial for students, let's break it down step by step. Once you've met the requirements, you'll follow this linear, logical order. Step 1, introduction of research. Step 2, locating resources. Step 3, organizing resources. Step 4, evaluating resources. And Step 5, synthesizing information. At which step does higher level thinking take place? At which step will students' opinions begin to form? At which step might their opinions change? How do we guide students through the inquiry research writing process? The process requires many skills that are probably new to students, so each step of the process can be implemented through gradually releasing responsibility. First, explain and model the strategy for students, me, and then have the class complete the strategy together, we. Next, put students into pairs to practice the strategy, two, and finally have students work independently to complete the strategy, you. So how do you go about teaching the inquiry research writing process? Although the work is complex, the steps are fairly straightforward. Because inquiry-based instruction is used for investigation, it can be important to set a clear purpose or parameters on research topics. For example, if this process were used in a social science classroom, it would be wise to narrow the scope of research with finite lists or descriptive prompts like an exhaustive list of smaller political parties when asking students to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of our two-party system. Here are two examples of possible prompts to use with the inquiry research writing process for several content areas. For math, we have evaluate when to properly use the commutative property and identify a mathematical property and explain how it was discovered and the effect it had on math. For science, we have become an expert on one of the states of matter, prepare to deliver a presentation to a college audience, and select a man-made object and explain the scientific process used from natural resources to the finished product. For social science, we have evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of our two-party system, and select one political party, research their overall platform and the issues they currently advocate for. Explain how their platform makes them unique. For communication and information services, we have research ad blocking software and inform your audience on which one is most effective. And select a profession in the performing arts and explain the process and difficulty in becoming a professional. As you may have noticed, each prompt allows for student choice, but provides students with a clear direction. Once students know what they're researching or have at least a general topic, have them do an initial Google search. Let them know that they will be compiling many sources so that they will later evaluate and synthesize. Send your students in the right direction. Do they need to have a scientific journal? An editorial? Define credible in your classroom. Either by yourself or in a group, let's take some time to reflect on the academic process we asked you about earlier. Evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of our two-party system. What type of assignment lends itself to this prompt? How many different resources would your students need to answer the question? Which specific sources would you assign to your students? Please pause the video for a moment and list as many primary and secondary sources as possible. If you're able, share with your colleagues. Press play when you're ready to resume. It's obvious that many students struggle with organization. This step may need to be released more gradually than the others because it's a skill that may be unfamiliar to students. The more successful the students are at organizing their resources, the better they will evaluate and synthesize the information. If you already have efficient note-taking and annotation strategies, please continue to use them. With graphic organizers, it's best to select one that best fits the type of inquiry. For the prompt, evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of our two-party system, a T-chart was selected because it best fits the prompt. If the prompt were broader, like describe the federal system of government, a web would be more appropriate. Bookmarking, text tagging, and online citations are all valuable tools for students to learn to use for all future research in college and in their career. CitationMachine.net is a resource that significantly reduces the stress of citing sources. Now it's time for the students to do the heavy lifting. They have gathered all this information, and oftentimes students have been trained to regurgitate instead of evaluate the information. This is why identifying many sources was so important. They will now have all the information they need to develop their own understanding of the topic and evaluate how effective and important each individual source is to the overall topic or prompt. Responsibility can still be gradually released to the students so they can effectively evaluate their sources. Can the information in the source be supported by other sources? What makes the source reliable or unreliable? Do any of the sources contradict each other? These are all questions to consider when evaluating sources to help form the evaluation. Traditional aids like learning logs, response journals, note-taking strategies and graphic organizers, exit tickets, checklists, and rubrics are still effective ways of helping students evaluate resources. There are many digital aids for students like SlingNote, MindMash, Poplet, Notability. If you're unfamiliar with these, please take the time to investigate and share them with your students. Once students have thoroughly evaluated the sources, they can synthesize the information by forming conclusions or expressing new understanding. This fifth step is the most important because without it, students can't see the value in the first four. Also, when students know the final product is going to be shared with an audience, they will be more invested in creating a better product. Here is the Nebraska ELA standard the students are in the process of mastering. Students will evaluate, create, and communicate information in a variety of media and formats, textual, visual, and digital. So it is important for the product to have textual, visual, and digital components. Keeping with the same prompt, students would create 2 products to demonstrate synthesis. Write a 2-page paper supporting or rejecting our 2-party system, citing at least 4 sources, using Word. Create a 3-minute presentation defending your conclusion, using Prezi. For early readers, struggling readers, or ELL students, the inquiry research writing process can be daunting. If students, like English learners or students with special needs, are struggling with the process, use graphics, flowcharts, and visuals, as well as text to depict the steps of the research process. Use word walls and pre-teach vocabulary during the research process. If students are struggling with the resources and materials, provide sentence frames and linguistic support for resources, and pre-select resources at their level. If students are high achievers and ready to begin, give a more challenging question to research or let students write prompts for each other. Inquiry is about discovery and intrinsic motivation. When students are given some control over what and how they learn, they naturally become more invested. Taking students through the inquiry research writing process creates critical thinkers and lifelong learners. Proper evaluation of sources will serve them well, regardless of where their lives take them. And now, by yourself, let's take some time and draft a lesson utilizing the inquiry research writing process. Choose a content area, topic, and grade level. What topic or prompt is worthy of inquiry? Write a specific, challenging research prompt. Will the final product be textual, visual, or digital? How will you introduce the topic? List 10 resources that will help students confidently answer the prompt. List 3 organizational tools. How will you facilitate higher-level thinking about the topic and encourage judgment about the sources and information? Please pause the video for a moment, draft your lesson, and envision the inquiry research writing process in your classroom. If you're able, share with a colleague and ask for their input about your final product. Press play when you're ready to resume. That brings us to the end of our webinar. Please take a moment to fill out our brief survey by visiting the link provided. Thank you for learning with us today.